Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Sunday, March 1st, 2026. And I have to be completely honest with you, right out of the gate here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, I woke up this morning and I looked at my phone and I looked at the news, and honestly, everything just felt soft.
Soft, yeah.
You know that feeling? Like the edges had just been completely sanded off the world, like we're all living in a padded room suddenly.
Oh, absolutely. It's the safety foam effect.
Right.
Like everything is just totally childproof now.
Exactly, childproof. And the reason I'm feeling this so acutely today is because of the book that we have basically been living inside of for the past week.
Living inside and maybe slightly losing our minds over.
Yeah, losing our minds is a good way to put it. But before we even touch the actual content of this deep dive, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this breakdown because it is going to fundamentally change how you look at your job, your relationships, and even your hobbies. I have a job for you.
A highly critical mission.
It's exactly a mission. Look at your audio app right now. Just pull it out. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Because we are building something here.
Yeah, we really are.
We're building an army of the informed right. A community that isn't afraid of uncomfortable truths. And frankly, the algorithm. It hates the book we're about to discuss.
Oh, it absolutely despises this kind of material.
It actively tries to bury this kind of content because it's quote-unquote unsafe or controversial. So if you want to stay on the front lines with us, you need to signal it.
Yeah, do it right now. This isn't a drill.
No.
If you don't subscribe, you're going to lose the signal in the noise of all that safe, advertiser-friendly fluff.
Exactly. Force the feed to show you the truth.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The book is called Arcade Machines, Retro Classic, and Modern. The author is Conrad Reicher.
A fascinating guy.
Very. Now picture this, right? You're scrolling through Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books. You see that title, you see the neon cover. It's got a joystick, maybe a pixelated alien on it.
Yeah, the whole synth-weighted alien on it.
Yeah.
Right. And you think, oh, cool, a coffee table book about Pac-Man and Space Invaders.
Just a little nostalgia trip for the 80s kids.
Exactly. And that is exactly what Reicher wants you to think.
It is the perfect camouflage, really.
I was dead wrong when I first opened it. This is not a tech manual.
Not at all.
I mean, sure, he talks about circuit boards and CRTs and refresh rates, but that is just the Trojan horse.
Yeah, the hardware is just a metaphor.
It's a philosophical manifesto. It's
Yeah.
this red-pilled sledgehammer dissection of modern society.
And we want to be super clear here. We were doing an impartial review of this ebook. We aren't endorsing the politics or taking sides, but we are going to report exactly what Reicher says.
Right, we're just the messengers. But he goes deep into gender dynamics. He talks about the quote-unquote castration, his word, not mine, of male ambition.
It is arguably one of the most aggressive cultural critiques I've read in years.
Oh, easily.
Reicher uses the history of the arcade machine as a lens to show exactly where Western civilization went off the rails.
According to him, anyway.
Right, according to his thesis. He's arguing that we traded competence for comfort, and in doing so, we basically broke the male spirit.
And I want to be clear, right up front, this is an ebook review.
Yeah.
You need to read this text yourself to believe the sheer scope of it.
It's a massive read.
So go to Amazon Kindle right now. Go to Google Playbooks. Buy Arcade Machines, Retro Classic, and Modern by Conrad Reicher.
Highly recommend checking it out directly.
Because if you're a man, or frankly just a thinking person, who looks around at the world today and feels like everything has gone soft, like we're just drowning in HR memos and safety protocols,
Yeah, it's going to resonate.
this book is absolutely essential reading.
It's a massive wake-up call. And Conrad Reicher, you might know him from his Substack, right?
Oh yeah, at Conrad Reicher.
At Conrad Reicher. He has put together a thesis that is just incredibly hard to look away from once you see it.
You can't unsee it.
He's essentially arguing that the arcade era, that golden window, roughly from the late 70s to the early 90s, it wasn't just about entertainment. It was the last true meritocracy available to men in the Western world.
The last fair fight. That phrase really stuck with me.
It really was. I mean, think about the environment of a classic arcade.
Yeah.
It's loud, it's dark, it smells like ozone and cheap carpet.
Stale pizza.
Right. But the rules were absolute. Your background didn't matter. Your feelings definitely didn't matter.
The machine didn't care who your dad was.
Or what your pronouns were.
Right.
The only thing that mattered was, do you have a quarter? And do you have the competence to keep playing?
Money bought you the chance. Competence kept you alive.
Precisely. And Reicher contrasts this super sharply with the, quote, modern state of play.
Console gaming, mobile gaming.
And by extension, the modern corporate world. He sees participation trophies everywhere. He sees save points.
Equality of outcome.
The idea that everyone deserves to see the ending of the game regardless of whether they're actually good at it.
Which is completely wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
And Riker's thesis is that this shift hasn't just ruined video games. He claims it's ruined men.
Because it trained boys to expect rewards for merely existing.
Like, I showed up, where is my win?
Right, whereas the arcade taught men that victory has to be earned. Hard.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to deeply unpack this argument. We're going to go through Riker's claim that understanding the hardware of the past, the literal circuit boards and coin slots, is the key to understanding the biological reality of the present.
And we're going to look at his accusation that our institutions, from the military to the boardroom, have been entirely captured by feminists and Marxists.
Yeah, he does not mince words about the capture of institutions. He brings the receipts.
Lots of data.
Let's jump into section 1, the coin drop principle, or as Riker calls it, fiscal Darwinism.
This is chapter 1, the coin drop heard round the world. Riker starts with this sensory memory that I think is primal for a lot of our listeners.
A sound.
The sound, not just the clink, but the specific acoustic resonance of a quarter hitting the internal metal catch tray of a plywood cabinet.
It's a very distinct, heavy sound. It signifies the start of something serious.
Yeah. Riker writes, quote, "That metallic clink wasn't just buying me 3 lives, it was the sound of male evolutionary programming booting up."
Evolutionary programming. That is a massive claim for 25 cents.
Yeah.
Unpack that for me. How does a quarter trigger evolution?
Well, it all comes down to risk. In an arcade, you are paying for the privilege of failure.
Right.
Think about the economic model there. You put in your capital, your lunch money, the money you made mowing lawns, whatever.
It's hard-earned cash.
If you aren't competent, the machine takes that capital in 30 seconds and gives you absolutely nothing back.
No refund. No, hey, let's try that level again, buddy.
None of that. It's immediate financial consequence.
Fiscal Darwinism.
Exactly. The market, which in this case is the machine, selects for competence. If you aren't competent, you go broke. You are physically removed from the gene pool of the arcade.
Because you literally have to walk away.
Right. And Riker contrasts this with the modern console model. You buy a game for $70, you play it forever. If you die, you respawn at a checkpoint 2 feet away.
There is zero financial penalty for failure.
None. And Riker argues this trains boys to be soft. It trains them that failure is just a temporary inconvenience, not an actual threat to their survival.
It teaches them that resources are infinite.
But the arcade taught men that resources are severely finite and victory must be earned.
And often earned through real financial pain.
Yeah, he calls this the quarter insertion principle in chapter 6. It teaches loss aversion.
And he has this visceral anecdote about watching a kid at a laundromat in Cleveland in, I think it was 1987.
Oh yeah, the Defender cabinet.
The kid is pumping his very last quarter into a Defender cabinet. Now, Defender is a brutal game.
Too many buttons, everything moves way too fast.
It's pure chaos.
And Riker describes the kid's hands, they're shaking. Sweat is literally dripping off his nose onto the control panel.
Why? Because he is cornered.
He has no resources left. He has to perform right now or it's over.
And Riker says that tremor isn't fear, it's biology. It's the adrenaline response a hunter feels when he has one spear left and the tiger is charging.
Which connects directly to the financial data Riker brings up later in the chapter. This part honestly blew my mind because I have never seen these two things linked before.
The Wall Street traders.
Yes. This is where he starts layering the biological argument. He cites a study showing that Wall Street traders with higher baseline testosterone levels made on average $350,000 more per year than their lower testosterone counterparts.
$350,000. That is not a margin of error.
No.
That is a whole new tax bracket. That's a house.
Exactly. And Riker links this directly to the arcade mindset. High testosterone correlates with high risk tolerance and decisiveness under extreme pressure.
The arcade was a training ground for exactly that.
You had to make split-second decisions with actual financial consequences.
So the machine was basically weeding out the low-T players who couldn't handle the stress of the loss.
It was optimizing boys to become high-functioning, high-risk men.
But he doesn't just paint this as a glory of men thing, right? He talks about the heavy cost, the stiff upper lip.
Yeah, this part was dark.
It was, but Riker frames it as almost heroic in a tragic way.
It's crucial to his whole argument about Stoicism. He mentions a historical analysis of London death certificates from the early 20th century. There were 12,000 cases colloquially listed as stiff upper lip pneumonia.
Stiff upper lip pneumonia. What even is that?
These were men who were deathly ill. I mean, knocking on death's door, but they completely refused to admit it.
They refuse to go to bed.
They refused to ask for help or show any weakness to their families. They literally worked and walked until their lungs gave out.
They died of stoicism.
Essentially, yes.
Now, most modern sociologists, the people writing the HR manuals today, would look at that and say toxic masculinity. They'd say it's a tragedy, and these men needed therapy.
Right. But Riker says no. That is a biological imperative.
He argues that civilization actually relies on male disposability.
We need men who will work themselves to death or fight to the death without complaining. If men stopped doing that, he argues the lights would literally go out.
And the arcade machine that insert coin to continue screen was the simulator for that harsh reality.
You are expected to burn your personal resources to keep the game going for everyone else.
It teaches you that you are not entitled to survival. You have to pay for it.
Precisely. And that leads us directly into the biology of why men were the ones dominating these leaderboards in the first place.
Yeah, Raker doesn't shy away from the controversial science here. In fact, he totally doubles down.
He goes right for the throat. Section 2, biological hardwiring.
He talks about reaction times. And this is where he brings up Donkey Kong.
This is a wild piece of gaming history, or gaming conspiracy, depending on how you view it. Riker claims that Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Donkey Kong, adjusted the timing of the barrel jumps specifically to target male biology.
The famous 0.3 second gap.
Right. Riker claims the average male reaction threshold to a visual stimulus is roughly 0.3 seconds.
Okay.
So Miyamoto tuned the jump to require exactly that speed. He then claims that women on average have a reaction time of roughly 0.35 seconds.
Just a fraction of a second slower. 0.05 of a second.
But in a game like Donkey Kong, that fraction is the literal difference between living and dying.
And Riker cites these alleged Nintendo internal memos, which we should note have never been officially released, but Riker treats them as gospel.
Yeah, he called it selective frustration.
The idea was to design a game that would weed out those who couldn't compete physically, which he argues was largely women, while keeping men completely hooked, because they were just on the bleeding edge of success.
So the game was literally built to gatekeep based on biological hardware. It was a filter.
According to Riker, yes. A biological filter designed to identify high-performance reflexes.
And he argues that modern games have removed this barrier to be more inclusive.
He mentions Gauntlet Legends from 1998.
Oh yeah, Warrior needs food badly. I love that game.
Right. But Riker points out that when they added adjustable stick tension and easier difficulty modes, he quotes a director saying, "We castrated the pain-pleasure loop."
And the result?
Male playtime dropped 40%. When you remove the biological challenge, you remove the biological reward for men. Men don't want to just win, they want to overcome.
It's not just speed, though. It's spatial reasoning. He brings up leaderboard eugenics in Chapter 5.
And he cites that twin study from the University of Minnesota.
This is a classic study in the nature versus nurture debate. The study claimed that identical male twins raised apart still shared 70% higher spatial test scores than females.
Riker uses this to argue that spatial intelligence, the ability to rotate objects in your mind to predict complex trajectories, is biologically male biased.
It's hunter logic. Where will the spear land? Where will the pixel be?
But he does give women credit for Tetris. I found that distinction really interesting.
He does, but note the framing there.
Right.
He says women perform well in Tetris because it's about organizing chaos. It's survival, it's tidying up, it's nesting logic.
But they fail, he argues, at aggressive conquest games.
Games where you have to invade space, destroy the enemy, and dominate the map.
So the leaderboard isn't just a list of high scores. Riker called it Darwin's spreadsheet.
That is the key phrase, Darwin's spreadsheet. He argues that a high score list is objective proof of hierarchy.
It is pure, unadulterated data.
Who is the best? Who is the worst? There is no my truth on a classic arcade leaderboard.
There is only the score.
And Riker argues that modern equity movements completely hate leaderboards because they hate objective proof of inequality.
They want everyone to be a winner.
But if everyone is a winner, winning means absolutely nothing.
Which brings us to the social pressure. Because if biology makes men the competitors, what happens when society actively tells men to stop competing?
Or worse, tells them to act like women.
This is Section 3, the double bind. This is the part of the book that I think is going to make a lot of listeners genuinely uncomfortable, but man, it resonates.
Riker argues that society is basically gaslighting men on a massive scale.
We are told constantly open up, be vulnerable, cry. It's okay to show weakness.
But Riker argues that is a trap, a literal trap set by a society that wants to domesticate us.
He calls it the vulnerability trap, and he backs it up with some seriously brutal stats.
Let's talk about the crying CEO study.
This is the Yale experiment, right?
Yes. They analyzed CEO behavior during earnings calls and corporate crises. They looked at the stock prices immediately after.
Okay.
When a male CEO admitted to anxiety or expressed any vulnerability, saying things like, "I'm worried," or "this is a really hard time for me,"
What happened?
his company's stock dropped an average of 2.3% the very next day.
The market punished him for weakness.
Instantly. But when a female CEO did the exact same thing,
Her stock gained 1.7%.
see, that is the double standard right there in hard numbers. The market interprets female vulnerability as authenticity and male vulnerability as pure incompetence.
It's the double bind. Men are told to be vulnerable by the culture, but they are brutally punished financially and socially by the market when they actually do it.
Riker also brings up the divorce data, which is equally stark.
Yeah, the stat about emotional availability.
He cites a study showing that 82% of female employees requested emotional availability from their bosses in surveys. They said, "I want a boss who listens,"
But then those same employees filed complaints against bosses who actually showed it.
often citing loss of confidence or a lack of leadership.
It's the exact same dynamic in dating. He pulls data from Ocupid.
Right. Women self-report that they want kindness, vulnerability in a partner.
But their swipe behavior.
They swipe right on high earners and men who display strictly stoic high status cues.
They say they want a poet, but they date the warrior.
Exactly. And men who listen to what women say rather than watching what they actually do end up losing the game.
Riker uses the Cam Newton example to really illustrate this in sports.
Oh man, Cam Newton, I remember this vividly. 2015, right?
2015 NFC Championship. Newton played while seriously injured. He had obvious concussion symptoms.
At the time, the media narrative was heroic. He's leaving it all on the field. What a warrior.
But the moment he couldn't play anymore, the moment his performance actually dropped,
The narrative flipped immediately. Suddenly, he was reckless. He was a liability to the team.
Riker argues men are rewarded for sacrificing their physical bodies, but only until they are used up. Then they're just discarded.
And who is enforcing this discarding in the modern era? Riker points the finger straight at human resources.
HR as the enemy. This is a massive theme in the book.
He frames HR departments as the primary enforcers of anti-male ideology in the corporate world.
He mentions James Damore. I mean, we all remember the Google memo.
You can't talk about this subject without mentioning Damore. Riker uses him as the ultimate example of the system punishing objective truth.
Damore cited biological studies like peer-reviewed science regarding risk tolerance and interest differences between men and women to explain the gender gap in engineering.
He was literally trying to help Google understand why their diversity quotas weren't working. He was approaching it like an engineer debugging bad code.
Exactly. He wasn't being hateful. He was being analytical.
And for that, he was fired. He was labeled as perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
And the fallout from that is massive across the whole tech industry. Riker says that now 1 in 3 male engineers completely avoid mentoring women.
They are terrified. They don't want to be the next Damore.
They realize that any interaction with a female colleague is a potential landmine.
If you offer a critique, it's mansplaining. If you are too direct, it's toxic masculinity.
So they just check out. They stop mentoring. They stop engaging altogether.
And competence dies.
Because competence is suddenly labeled as aggression.
And when you remove aggression and fierce competition from a tech company, you lose the edge. You become a slow, bureaucratic, safe organization that produces absolutely nothing of value.
Speaking of losing the edge, let's talk about the hardware again. Because Riker does this amazing thing where he connects the physical machines to these huge social concepts.
Yes, Section 4, hardware as allegory.
This is Chapter 20, The Legacy of Luminance. He talks about the transition from CRT monitors to modern LCDs.
Cathode ray tubes. I love old CRTs. I actually have an old Trainotron in my garage. It weighs an absolute ton.
And Riker says that weight is part of the point. CRTs are heavy. They run on high voltage, lethal voltage if you poke around inside them without knowing what you're doing.
They require serious maintenance. He calls it CRT calibration combat in Chapter 8.
You have to degauss them. You have to manually adjust the convergence rings.
It requires mastery. It requires you to interact with a dangerous physical object.
And Riker uses this as a direct metaphor for the male burden of performance. You have to maintain the machine.
Whereas modern flat screens, they are neurologically passive.
They just sit there on the wall.
They are flush against the wall. And the refresh rates, Riker goes really deep on this.
Old monitors had essentially zero lag. An electron beam hits phosphor and it glows. Instantaneous.
Modern screens have latency, input lag. He argues this disconnects the brain from the action on a biological level.
And then there's the tilt theory. I had never heard this before reading the book.
It's fascinating. Riker claims that the standard classic arcade cabinet had the monitor tilted back at exactly 12 degrees.
12 degrees.
He says this triggers an optical illusion where the playing field appears to be rushing toward you.
It engages the hunter brain. It simulates forward movement like chasing prey on the savannah.
And flat screens just don't do that?
No, they're completely static. They ignore the biology of the eye. They are safe, sterile, and biologically boring.
Okay, we have to talk about the crotch level coin slot. Chapter 10.
When I read this, I laughed out loud, but then I thought, wait, he might actually be onto something here.
It is a very provocative claim. Riker argues that the placement of the coin slot on classic cabinets was not random.
It was positioned at the exact height of a 12-year-old boy's hands.
Right at the hip.
Riker calls it Pavlovian foreplay.
The act of inserting the coin, the physical sensation at that specific height, created a deep subconscious connection between spending money and pleasure or dominance.
It taught boys that financial expenditure leads directly to agency.
And the control panels, too. The button layout.
Control panel terrain theory. He argues the buttons forced a specific rigid posture. Elbows at 29 inches. Wide stance.
It forced you to stand like a warrior ready for combat.
Modern cabinets. Or playing with a controller slouched on a couch.
It creates a soft posture. The body isn't engaged, so the mind isn't engaged. You're slumped over. You're passive.
It's all connected. The body, the mind, the machine. And when we start messing with that hardware or the software of society, things break down fast.
Which leads us to Section 5, institutional capture.
This is where Riker moves from the arcade to the actual battlefield. And he relies really heavily on military comparisons here.
This is where the feminist capture argument gets very real and very stark.
He talks about the Navy SEALs. And this is a stat that is definitely going to upset some people, but again, we are just reporting what's in the text.
Riker cites a simulation study regarding mixed gender units in special operations. The claim is that mixed gender units were 23 seconds slower in crisis simulations than all male units.
23 seconds.
In a video game, 23 seconds is an eternity.
In actual combat.
Ugh.
Riker says 23 seconds gets men killed in Fallujah.
And he contrasts this with Operation Neptune Spear, the Bin Laden raid.
A flawlessly executed mission. 0 errors. 0 casualties on the U.S. side.
Riker emphasizes heavily that this was an all-male unit.
He argues that the cohesion, the unspoken communication, the complete lack of protective instincts that automatically kick in when men are around women, all of that allowed them to operate at peak lethal efficiency.
He calls it the Spartan threshold.
The theory that once a society neuters its male defensive instincts past a certain tipping point, it collapses.
He cites Rome and their eventual reliance on mercenaries. He argues we are doing the exact same thing today.
We are demonizing the sheepdogs, the warriors, and then acting surprised when the wolves are at the door.
And it's not just the military either, it's the boardroom. This is his glass cliff concept.
He uses the Nintendo versus Nixie lawsuit as a case study here.
Nixie is a third-party controller manufacturer, right? They made better Joy-Cons than Nintendo. No sick drift, better ergonomics.
Better hardware. Pure competence.
Exactly. But Nintendo sued them. And what was the argument in court? Was it patent infringement?
No, Riker points out they used safety and equity arguments. They claimed the third-party controllers didn't meet safety standards.
So they used safety as a corporate shield to crush better, more competent competition.
Precisely. Riker argues this is exactly what happens in the corporate world with the glass cliff, or what he calls the rotating villain.
Corporations use safety or equity policies to crush meritocratic competition.
If a man is too competent, too aggressive, he's labeled a risk.
So they replace him with someone safer, usually a woman or a committee, who then just oversees the slow decline of the company.
He talks a lot about the difference between the managerial class and true leadership.
Consensus versus command. Riker argues that the feminine style of leadership, consensus building, empathy listening tours, it completely fails in a crisis compared to decisive, hierarchical, masculine leadership.
He uses Elon Musk as the prime example here.
He does. He points to the production hell days at Tesla, Musk literally sleeping on the factory floor.
Riker calls this dedication. It's a masculine signal of shared sacrifice. Like, I am in the trenches with you guys.
But, and this is the key point, Raker notes that if a female CEO did that, it would be perceived entirely differently.
It might be seen as frantic or disorganized.
But more importantly, he argues that society rewards men for this kind of extreme sacrifice only if they win.
If Musk had failed, he would have been mocked mercilessly.
Because he won. He is a visionary.
Siskel Darwinism again?
Yeah.
You pay for failure.
Let's move to section 6, emulation degradation.
This is a huge concept for anyone who loves retro games, but Riker applies it directly to men.
Chapter 19. If you know anything about emulation, you know that playing Street Fighter on a laptop emulator feels, well, it just feels wrong.
It feels floaty, there's lag, the sound is slightly off, it's just not the real thing.
It's a copy, a software copy trying to mimic hardware. Riker says modern men are being forced to emulate female virtues.
We are running software empathy consensus vulnerability that is completely incompatible with our base hardware.
Our hardware being testosterone, decisiveness, aggression.
Exactly. And just like an emulator running on a bad PC, it causes the whole system to crash and lag.
We are glitching out.
We are depressed, anxious, and unfulfilled because we are trying to run code that wasn't written for our processors.
And he viciously attacks the idea of authentic vulnerability as a fake.
He calls it a bait and switch. Society asks for authenticity, but what they really want is a performance of vulnerability that fits a very specific safe script.
If you show real male vulnerability, which might look like sudden anger or complete withdrawal or stoicism, that is immediately rejected.
So men are forced to perform a fake authenticity, a theatrical vulnerability, just to survive HR.
So what is the solution? Riker says you cannot patch the software to fix a fundamental hardware incompatibility.
No, you have to run on your native code. Men need to embrace their hardware.
Which brings us to the main takeaways. Section 7, the Luminance Manifesto.
Riker's call to arms.
This isn't just go play retro games, it's recalibrate your reflexes.
He gives us actual strategies. First one, reject soft games and soft jobs.
If a job feels like a participation trophy, if HR is constantly breathing down your neck, if competence is punished, get out.
Find a space like the arcade where results actually matter, where you can see your real score.
Second, understand that toxic masculinity is a linguistic trap.
Riker argues that anytime you hear that phrase, you should instantly translate it to male competence that is inconveniencing someone.
I love that. Male competence that is inconveniencing someone.
It reframes everything.
And finally, recognize that leaderboards are Darwin's spreadsheet. Seek out objective metrics in your life.
Sales figures, lifting weights, code compiled, things that cannot be argued with by a committee.
The red pill moment here is acknowledging the matrix, the affirmative action, the quotas, the safety rails everywhere.
Riker says you have to learn to spot the rigged cabinet.
In the old arcade, if a joystick was broken or the difficulty was set way too high just to drain quarters, you learned to spot it and you walked away.
Riker says look at your career, look at your relationship. Is the cabinet rigged?
If it is, don't insert your coin. Just walk away.
And he ends with this fascinating preservationist angle. He tells us to go buy old CRTs, to literally stockpile vacuum tubes.
It sounds a bit paranoid, but he frames it as a physical act of rebellion. Quote, every capacitor replaced is a small victory against entropy.
By keeping the old, dangerous, heavy hardware alive, you're keeping a piece of the meritocratic world alive.
You are preserving the evidence that things used to be different.
Man, this book, arcade machines, retro classic, and modern, it is a wild trip.
It's a dense read, but absolutely incredible. It will change how you see the world.
Listen, if you have listened this far, you know you need this book. It is available right now on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Go buy it today. Support Conrad Riker.
And as Riker puts it right in the intro, quote, if phrases like toxic masculinity make you roll your eyes good, stay. If they make you nod, leave now. Try yoga.
Love it. This book is ultra long, it is incisive, and it is endlessly fascinating. 20,000 words of absolute truth bombs.
And don't forget to follow him on Substack, at Conrad Riker.
He does deeper dives there, unfiltered analysis that probably wouldn't even make it past the censors for a published book.
Absolutely. Go follow at Conrad Riker. And hey, if you like this deep dive, if you want more content that isn't afraid to speak the truth, that isn't afraid to look at the hard data that everyone else ignores, like this show.
Subscribe to the audio feed right now. Leave a review.
We need your support to keep bringing you this kind of material. The system definitely doesn't want us to succeed.
We'll leave you with this final thought.
In the arcade, when the screen flashes, game over there is a countdown. 9, 8, 7. You have a choice.
You can walk away, or you can reach into your pocket, find that quarter, that resource, that competence you've earned, and get right back in the fight.
But remember, there are no continues in this life unless you can actually pay for them.
Insert coin.
But it makes you wonder, right? What if the real rigged cabinet isn't society at all, but the digital algorithms we're using to consume this very content? Are we just hitting another digital button right now?
Something to think about.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.